foremost, how's the squad looking heading into this one?
Yeah, fine. We picked up a couple of knocks, just one or two wee things. I'm kind of hopeful that they'll be okay. Possibly one that might have a wee bit of an issue. So we'll just need to wait and see how that falls. But I think we're in a very similar place going into this game in terms of who we've got to pick from and what's available to us. So nothing much changes in that sense. But obviously from my side of things, what changes is that we have to make sure that we put a team in the park and try and ensure that we don't find ourselves sort of 2, 3, 4 goals behind in a game of football, which we've had in the last couple. And from that group, I still I absolutely believe that solution is there.
There had to be some quite stern words with the players over the last couple of weeks.
No, again, I always try to be as consistent as I possibly can. Of course, I was frustrated at half time. Of course, I was angry. But I still look at it and I still go back to what I said post-match. I'm a huge believer in evidence. I find in football so often we talk about how you can be good at a job and how you should get a job and how I should be playing in your starting 11. And I always go back to evidence. Everything I try and do is through evidence. Everything I try and say is through evidence. It's not in theory. It's not in me sitting in my house and trying to magic things up. And the same with players. So that was kind of what I referred back to with the players. The solution is in the dressing room. The solution is amongst ourselves at the football club. And what I have to believe and what the players have to believe is, we got a lot of praise for 22 games, 15 victories, 4 draws, 3 defeats. It's a pretty special run, really, which I'm going back to again, and I'll need to stop doing that at some point. Of course, so I'll acknowledge that. But what that tells me is it's a very similar group of players that have been involved in that. A lot of individuals that have been really successful within that. So therefore, for me, that we have to have those fine margins tweaked. We have to make minor adjustments, and we probably individually and collectively are. Of course, individually and collectively, we have to perform better. We have to make better decisions at better times in games of football. I think we looked at a point where our goalkeeper had no involvement for about 13 minutes in the Aberdeen game, and the lead up to Aberdeen scoring a goal. So that would suggest to you that maybe we're not firing all cylinders, maybe we're not creating chances at that point, but we had a level of control. We were okay in the game, so therefore you kind of then starting to find yourself a goal down, 2 goals down, and I think that more so comes from us rather than individual brilliance from Aberdeen. So that can be rectified. Sometimes you hold your hands up and say the opposition were fantastic, it was a great goal, special moment in a game, but I don't really feel that we've encountered that too much. Maybe Simon Murray's turn on the edge of the box and finish was probably one of those moments, but again, even before that, we start to look at how we can be better, and we are setting a good shape, and we make 1 or 2 poor decisions off the back of that.
I mean, some fans would obviously maybe get a bit down just given some of the recent results, but you talk about the results you've had before and the run you were on. Is that where the belief comes from, that things can turn really quickly in football and you can get back on track?
Yeah. Listen, when I came in February, things turned around very, very quickly, didn't they? And then by the nature of football, you find yourself in a position where you've not won games in the last 6, which is difficult, given that there's been a few good performances in there, and now we find ourselves in a position where there's been a few bad performances. So I hope that's where I'm consistent. I'm not going to sit here and try and sell the narrative to people that I feel that we've been really good in the last couple of games, because we've not. Ultimately, we've conceded 7 goals at home in the last 2 games. We've scored 5, and when you're scoring 5 goals at home in 2 games of football, I would expect that you probably be sitting with more than 1 point. So that shows a clear direction of where we're coming up short and what's not right about us at this minute in time. And I know for a fact that come Saturday that's going to be tested again. When you look at Kilmarnock and how Derek's got them set up and how they've been playing, they take games to you. They're very much in the front foot. They carry a real threat in the final third. They carry a threat in wide areas. So that resolve of ours is going to be tested. But I know for sure that I relish the challenge and what we're going to need, absolutely, and I'm sure they will, having seen their body language yesterday, and how they're coming in again this morning as a group of players that really relish that challenge, but also have an understanding. They have scored 5 goals in the last couple of games, but we need to score those goals at times when it counts, and potentially it gets our nose in front. Because in Scottish football, that changes the context of the game. Whether you have something to hold on to, whether you have the advantage, it is a huge psychological boost for us. So coming up with big moments at big times in games starts to become a real big aspect for us looking into the game on Saturday.
Understandably, the'd maybe be a bit of a clamour from the outside for Makabiras to come in and start games. Like we were looking out there, it's 3 goals and 2 assists in 97 Premiership minutes. It's obviously a fantastic record, but is he at a point now where he can start, or is he still having to be managed back in?
I think probably Wednesday was a good milestone for him, because we were able to get 50 minutes or whatever it became in the end, 49 minutes with added on time under his belt. So that was a stage on for the 30 minutes when injury time he got on the Saturday. So I'm just hopeful that he begins to feel that bit fitter, that bit stronger. Again, potentially a big ask for him to come in and start in the game. You have to take the surface into account as well. And again, this isn't me sitting here with a criticism, but it absolutely is something that comes into the minds of managers that train and play on grass on a daily basis, because the impact that it can have on players' bodies is significant. I only need to look back to Callum Butcher jumping for a header at Livingston at the tail end of last season, and he found himself out for 3 months, not so much by how he went into that challenge, but by simply landing on the surface. And I believe that on grass, the grass potentially gives way, and obviously in the Astro his foot stuck, so he had an issue off the back it. So you speak to players now, and I think if you're not training on that surface every day, getting a feel for that surface every day, then it can be a real shock to the system. So I need to take all those factors into account, and when I do, and I have done, and I've got my team set up, and I know what that setup's going to be, it absolutely is, with that conversation with the medical guys and an understanding with the players that we feel players can play, players can go and start the game, or what impact or what minutes they can play.
Do you welcome the kind of the swift chance to get back on it, because you might be searching for answers all week when you probably know the answers from previous times as well, how the team have played well for the bulk of your time here as well? They're just getting back to that rather than looking for something new.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Again, I go back to the evidence side of it. What we need to do is we need to tweak aspects, and we need to focus on certain areas that are causing us problems and creating issues for ourselves. But I've never been a believer that we have to go and completely rip things up and start again. Again, we go back to when you have been winning games, when you have been competitive with the same people, then you understand that there are solutions within your group. We need to find solutions within our group, but at times it's going to have to be with a slightly different mindset. There's going to be adjustments that we've spent hours post match on Wednesday. You're here very, very late, you're back in again at 7 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and you're not leaving till really late last night. So that is trying to find those kind of marginal gains for us. It's trying to find the right combinations on the pitch. It's trying to find players that are in the right moment as well. It's trying to find guys that are going to attack the game and approach the game in a good place, that are showing signs of hitting good form. And that's no disrespect to maybe players that come out of the team. It's just simply that you're trying to find the right solution for that particular game. And I've always been there as well. That's always what I've said. No matter who we're playing, where we're playing, what the conditions are, I'll try and select the team accordingly. But I've also touched on the fact that I've been incredibly loyal to players when we're performing and when we're getting results. So sometimes there'll be no surprise, and I think we've got an honest enough group to suggest that if those changes are made, then there's guys that will take that in the chin, they'll accept it, but I'm sure they'll come back with determination and want to be the one that comes on the park and makes an influence as well.
How does that process work? Do you involve the players in that when you're looking for tweaks? Do you take their feedback from what happened the other night as well?
No, I don't. It's I talk about it always being my decision. I talk about it always being my leadership. The one thing that I would say is that if you come out the team here, you're the first person to know about it. If people are going to come out the team, that's always how I've worked. Them that's worked with me will tell you. I listen to players. I have an understanding that we've got an experienced group here, and we've got guys that really understand the game. But no, the players will tell you it's always my thoughts. It's always my approach. approach. It's always what I feel is best for the game, and I always talk about that falling in your own sword. You know, it's fine and well, lots of people having an input and lots of people having an idea, but ultimately I must fall in my own sword. Whatever happens, good, bad or indifferent, it needs to be my direction of travel. But as I say, when there's changes made, I've always been a guy that where the game's possibly changed is I've sat in a dressing room an hour and a half before kick-off and managers name teams, and you've played the last several months and been successful, and you find yourself as a guy out of the team. Players will know today who's in and who's out, and there's always a reason for that as well, whether a player accepts that, whether a player likes it, but I've always been a guy that tries to go into the real finer detail of why I'm leaving you out of the team. And as I say, I take frustration today, but you know, by the end of today, tomorrow when we come into the game, then it's one focus that we go and try and win a game of football, which is going to be incredibly difficult.